Hi, everybody.
Hey everyone.
Welcome to our Back to School Tips with Gender Spectrum. I'm Pamela. I'm the Director of Family Support here at Gender Spectrum.
And I'm Lisa Kenney, Executive Director at Gender Spectrum.
So we wanted to talk today a little bit about the back to school because the first day of school and the beginning of a new school year is really like such a big deal for every child. And we think it's a great opportunity for us as parents to really bring up some issues around gender and support our kids.
Or at least to have a conversation, right? Just kind of get reintroduced to our kids around how they see themselves at this point in the year. It's sort of a milestone event, right?
Absolutely.
Back to school.
All right, so first we wanted to start with a little bit of foundation, just about, a foundation for ourselves as parents and also ones that we can share with our kids.
Well, so let me talk about that. So when we talk about gender, just to base that, sort of what do we really mean when we talk about gender? We really think about it in three different dimensions. The first one is the body, which is where everybody sort of starts. It's just also where they typically end, and we won't. But bodies are not only sort of biology, but also how bodies are gendered, the way that we perceive men and women in our traditional sort of notions about gender in those two categories as sort of what it means in terms of what we expect based on bodies. The second thing, though, is identity. And we talk a lot about identity, but actually we know very little about people's identity, but certainly how they see themselves in the name that they give their gender, which is what the identity is, certainly informs how the person sees their own gender. And the third dimension, so it's body, identity, and the third dimension of gender is expression. So gender expression, which is really how we live our gender in the world, and also how people perceive us based on what they see. It's one of those interesting things that, for example, in all the bathroom discussions of what's going on, the truth is I don't know what somebody's biology is. I don't know what their identity is. I do know, and just looking at them based on what I see, and which is more about me maybe than about them, whether or not they look like they should be in that bathroom. So really, expression is that thing that we see and that we put out. And so that's a lot of what kids are going to be thinking about, is that third dimension as we get ready for going back to school. The thing that's really important, though, in thinking about those three dimensions is that for all of us, what we're looking for is a sense of gender congruence, meaning those three dimensions come together in a place of harmony in our lives. Like we want all those things to fit together in one way or another. And so gender congruence is a really important thing to think about as we're talking with our kids during back to school time, which is, what does congruence look like for them? What really feels authentically them? That's really what we're trying to help our kids do at this point in the back to school time of year.
And it's important for us as parents to remember that congruence can look completely different for every child.
That's right.
So just because your child may identify as a boy, that doesn't mean that they're going to have the same expression and identity and everything as another child that identifies as a boy or a girl or non-binary, something different, right?
That's right. And that's the thing, too, about the three dimensions is that we can't assume based on any one of those that we know anything else about the other two dimensions, right?
That's right.
And that way, each of those dimensions operates independently, but they are related to one another, but sort of uniquely and personally to that person. And so that's really important to remember. And for all of us, we can think about people that we've known within a particular gender category and realize that, in fact, there's tremendous diversity in terms of what that gender means when we're thinking about identity, and that there's really just a lot of variation. It's natural, and that we want to really allow our kids to know exists in the world, and also that they have some freedom within that to be able to find their authentic self.
Exactly. And for us as parents to give them that permission to actually find what feels most like themselves. Yeah. So that's really the basis of what we want to talk about as far as going back to school. So the first thing is, we're going to go over three tips. The first tip is talk to your kids. Use this as an opportunity to talk to your kids about gender. Check in with them, see where they're at. The beginning of a school year is a time where it's a great time for them to it's a big deal how they're going to present themselves. It's an opportunity to reinvent themselves a little bit if that's where they're at.
That's right.
But use it as a time to talk to them and give them this framework of gender, because they might not have it. We think that, youth do,
we think kids do, but they really don't. In fact, we see in our work again and again that it's not just the adults that are new to some of these notions, but that the kids are too. They may be experiencing them, but without a framework or the language, they may not really know what to do about it. And so it's really helpful in this at this time of year to not only check back in with your kids, but make sure that you're providing a framework and a language for them, and that you're actually opening up a conversation that then they know, hey, listen, maybe things are a little more open than I might have thought.
Right.
In this sort of highly gendered world that we live in.
Exactly. So number one, talk to your kids. Use it as a time to like have a conversation about gender and where they're at. Number two is to help your kids think about congruence, like Lisa was talking about, and how that's gonna come up in expression, I think, as the school year starts.
Yeah, and I think really talking with your kid and asking them how they see themselves right now, what feels best to them, what feels good to them, and then think about that before you even go shopping, because that may be in the department that's sort of consistent with their gender identity, and it may not be. And so I think hearing more about what feels congruent to them before you even go shopping, what you might find is, Target's going to be a great option. You might find that, that sort of consignment store, down in downtown area, wherever you live, might be actually a better place that has a choice that is more the kind of clothing that they might be interested in. So I think talking about it up front and then thinking together, where are we most likely to find the clothes that are going to help you feel best?
Exactly. Don't make assumptions like, we're just going to go shopping where we've always gone, or we're just going to go in the department that we've always gone.
That's
really
right.
Use it as a chance to kind of give your child the opportunity to see that there might be other things out there, and that really gives you information as a parent.
That's right.
As to where your kid is at.
That's right. That's right.
So clothing obviously is just a huge opportunity for that. And then secondly, talk to your kid. Going back to school has a lot to do with activities and extracurriculars, right?
That's right. And I think that's one of the real challenges, because in so many cases, those options are very gendered options. Sports certainly tends to be very gendered. And so if a child is sort of trying to figure out what does congruence look like and who am I and who do I want to be represented at within the sort of this school context, that can be an interesting challenge. And so to remind them that there's a lot of options, right? There are many things beyond sports, but other kinds of extracurriculars and clubs and other kinds of activities and interests. And I think the really powerful thing as parents that we can provide is to simply acknowledge that breadth. Yeah. Because even in saying it out loud is a really nice way, to communicate with our kids without trying to say, hey, by the way, if you are interested in this club, that's okay. And they may say, give you that kind of roll, especially the teens, right? Or the middle schoolers, rolling their eyes and go, yeah, I know. But it's a way just to acknowledge, in fact, there's a lot of options that are going to be open and available to them that feel right to them. And also if they are feeling conflicted because something that they're very interested in, potentially something that's been important to them in the past, previous years, but now doesn't feel as right to them, that's a really great opportunity to say, hey, I know that you've done this in the past. Is this still something that interests you? Is this still something that's enjoyable? Are there other things? So they don't feel like they're doing it for you or that you're expecting it. And even though sometimes we might think our kids don't care that much, especially as they get older, about the things that we want them to do versus the things, but they absolutely do. And you're giving permission as the parent can just be a wonderful way of saying, hey, listen, I'm open to seeing you in new ways just as you want to be seen in new ways, and that can be really powerful.
Exactly. So if you have like a child who identifies as a girl, you might say, I heard there's a girls wrestling team. Like at my kids' school, there's a girls wrestling team. Or a boy, you might say, instead of just saying, oh, do you want to do football again or soccer again, if that's what they've done in the past, say, hey, do you want to do football or theater, or there's dance, kind of just mentioning other things opens up permission as a parent that they can say, hey, maybe I do.
That's right. And at least it gives them permission to explore and to think about it, which is really important, to find that thing that is them. Right?
And the main thing is you are giving, as the parent, permission, the message that I'm open to it. I want you to be exactly who you want to be, and I'm going to help you, find that congruence.
So those are the tips we have. Sort of have a check-in with your child and give them some sort of framework for this conversation, especially the idea of congruence and what congruence is in their gender. Talk with them about who they want to present themselves as, what feels authentically them as they think about clothing and those kinds of things. And then, again, remind them that there's lots of options available in terms of extracurriculars and clubs and other activities and interests that they might want to pursue.
And if you want more information on the 3 dimensions of gender, you can visit genderspectrum.org and look at our Understanding Gender. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great school year.